Okay, so first tell me a little bit about what your position here is at the police office.
I'm the public information officer, actually one of two.
We were discussing a lot in our project about DWIs and the issue of drunk driving in Columbia. Do you think, how prevalent of an issue is drunk driving in the Columbia area?
I think that it's definitely an issue, but I think it is everywhere. Drinking in specific, especially with underage drinking, it can be disproportionately more of a problem in rural areas than urban areas, simply because there's not as much to do and they're more likely to sit around and drink. It's definitely an issue because it's putting at least one person at risk, and I don't think that it's any more or any less than somewhere else. People sometimes ask about the college population, and it's no more or less dangerous for a 20 or 21-year-old to drive drunk than a 45-year-old to drive drunk. If you have a 45-year-old who's driving drunk, they've probably been drinking for a whole lot of years. And they're probably better at it than this person, but when they get into crashes, their BIC is usually way higher and the crashes are way more serious.
On average, if you had to estimate, about how many DWIs do you think are given in like a week's period in the area?
It depends. On any given weekend, it's really normal for us to arrest 2 or 3 people on a Friday night, 2 or 3 people on a Saturday night, and a sprinkling of them throughout the week. It's not unusual to see one anyway each night of the week.
How frequently do you do the sobriety checkpoints? Do they occur every weekend, or?
No, actually, they are really a bear to prepare for,
Really?
and staff, and it takes a lot of coordinated effort, and so maybe 4 times a year would be expected. Yeah.
How do you determine the locations for where you're placing these checkpoints throughout the city?
That's a really good question. Number one priority, number one criterion is safety. Is this a place where if traffic backs up, we are not likely to cause traffic congestion, traffic wrecks? And where do we have a safe, well-lit place that we can park the cars while the people are being tested, and then get them safely back into their cars and on the road if they're okay to go, or keep the cars if they're not okay to go? What are we going to do with the passengers in the vehicle? So safety, absolutely, the physical layout is the number one criterion. But a close second is, where is it going to be effective as a deterrent, and also then in catching the people who are actually driving while they're intoxicated. When you're intoxicated, you really can't multitask. You just can't, because the brain is impaired. If everything goes perfectly, they're probably going to make it home just fine as long as they stay awake. But what happens if they're approaching the light and the light cycle change and it goes to yellow flash or red flash, or a cat runs out in front of them or a car pulls out in front of them? That's where that risk is so inherent, because they're not going to be able to process that, and they're not going to be able to react to that properly, and that's where we get those really ugly crashes. And so that's why we have this specific unit, and it's why we pull people over when we see signs of what looks like impaired driving. And it's not always. Sometimes people are talking on their phone or texting or emailing or eating or smoking or changing the radio station. But when they are intoxicated, then we're glad when we've stopped them before they obviously get to a point where they've had the crash.
After all the paperwork and everything is filed, is if the loss of the license is one of the factors that happens, but anything additionally past that, I mean,
yeah, they can,
next month or even after.
Right, and they can apply for a hardship license, which means you can go back and forth to school and to work. They can have an administrative hearing to appeal the revocation of their license if they want to. A lot of times what people do is go ahead and hire an attorney, because there's the driver's license side to it as well as the criminal case. And in addition to all that, when it's all resolved, there's insurance paperwork that you must file, or you'll never be properly instated. You want the discipline or punishment, however you want to look at that, to just deter the behavior in the future. And if a lesser fine for you is going to make you not do it again, then why does somebody need to be harsh with you?
Do you think that there is anything that needs to be done as far as the drunk driving problem is concerned in Columbia, or What kinds of things are being done, just preventative programs or anything like that?
I think we've actually come a long way in the past few decades. When I was a teenager, it was socially acceptable to drink underage, and it was also socially acceptable to drink and drive. I mean, people just didn't look at it at askance as they do. And educational campaigns, I think, have been really, really helpful, especially in Department of Transportation. Does an excellent job with educational campaigns, and people, they recognize that you drink and drive, you lose.
Is there anything else you'd like to add on to that? Or?
Somebody asked me a question earlier today, and I thought it was a really good question. And she said, what is really your all's primary concern, especially with the college-age population?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like what I alluded to earlier. It's really that when people consume alcohol, they are more likely to end up making themselves a victim. The minute, and a lot of times people think, but I don't get stumbling down drunk, that's not going to happen to me. But the minute you have your first drink, the first thing alcohol impairs for any of us, men or women alike, it's just our judgment. And so it's just that much easier for you to go, I'm okay to drive. You wouldn't have let yourself do that over here when you were still sober.
Right.
But it just lowers inhibitions and it affects judgment, and people think that they're okay to drive. And so what we want people to do is really think about it ahead of time. Kind of like what we were saying for big weekends like 4th of July or New Year's Eve or something like that. If you know you're going to be going out, plan ahead. There are taxis out there, there are the Stripes vehicles. Have a handful of friends that might be mad at you, but they're willing to get up at 1 in the morning and come and get you and give you a ride so that you don't take that risk.